You can't modernize Superman. Now I know what you're thinking. It's no longer 1938, and Superman has been in a modern setting multiple times throughout the years. Especially the last 3 Superman projects set in the modern setting have received a response that was beyond merely positive. But that's not quite what I mean by Superman shouldn't be and cannot be modernized.
Are you sure about that?
Just hold on and hear me out. Superman is one of the most enduring icons of modern mythology. Since his debut in Action Comics in 1938, he has symbolized something timeless: truth, justice, and all of that punk rock. But as timeless as all those things were, Superman has been called outdated, even boring, by the general audience. Especially with the past few years of Marvel's success, where the world building was fairly realistic in its early years compared to the comic book movies of the previous era, the general audience found Superman boring for the longest time until the new James Gunn movie came out. So what made this movie work in ways Superman never worked on the big screen before? And how exactly did the previous project fail to make Superman work for the general audience today? It all lies with the approach they took in modernizing the character. Let's dig into the history of Superman for a second. Superman was created in 1938 during the Great Depression era in America. In other words, there's a reason why Superman evolved into such a hopeful and inspiring superhero. In the time of gloomy days in America, Superman was created to represent hope, marking his relevance to American history. Additionally, as I stated in my previous video, the creator of Superman, Jerry Siegel, has publicly stated that Superman was a direct response to the hearing of oppression and slaughter of the helpless Jews in Nazi Germany, as well as the struggle of the immigrants in America, making Superman much more historically relevant. Though World War II finally ended in September 1945 with Japan's surrender 5 months after Hitler's death, Superman's historical relevance didn't fade away. With the tensions of the Cold War rising, the Silver Age of Superman comics provided an escape for Americans, while idolizing Superman as the personification of American ideals. After the Soviet Union collapsed in 1991, DC Comics took more liberty in putting Superman in the time of the post-World War II and the Cold War. Then, as we entered the early 2000s, something happened that had an enormous impact on American history and culture: the 9/11 tragedy. After the unforgettable tragedy in American history, one of its most prominent cultural forms, comic books, underwent notable changes. Darker and grittier superheroes were more focused, and superheroes started dealing with terrorism and threats to national security. Comic books started reflecting the modern world more openly than they ever did before. In the middle of all that, Superman stood still as the representation of hope for America at its most tragic moment. Standing right with Spider-Man, Superman paid tribute to the victims and heroes of 9/11, as well as becoming the symbol of patriotism and a resistance against terrorism. I mean, it's pretty evident in their movies, right? In other words, Superman's character heavily relied on timeless values such as hope, truth, justice, and all those important things during the times of violence. For almost a century of his existence, in different times and eras, Superman stood as the representation of hope and strength for humanity. Zack Snyder is not a bad director by no means. From Watchmen to 300, there's no doubt he's a talented epic director. But as much as I respect him as a director, and as much as I have a special place in my heart for Man of Steel, like I stated in my previous video, it seems like he didn't quite understand the character of Superman when he tried to put him in the modern setting. Superman wasn't loved anymore. His father constantly warned him that the world would never be ready to accept him. And as much as I like to believe his father was proven wrong in The Man of Steel by the world needing Superman to step up to be their hero, Zack Snyder, for whatever reason, decided his father was right in Batman vs. Superman. Everyone either saw Superman as a savior or a threat, almost like Snyder wanted to reflect the cruelty of the world's nature in his attempt to make the myth more realistic. People hated Superman. Hell, even Batman hated Superman. Superman didn't resemble hope anymore. He wasn't inspiring anymore. He became gloomy, greedy, and angry to survive the violent and cruel reality of modern times. And that's exactly where Zack Snyder went wrong. Maybe Snyder wanted to tell us that the world is cruel and violent, that even a man like Superman suffers to survive in the monstrosity the world has become. But the thing is, we already knew that, which is exactly why we needed Superman all this time. From the Great Depression to the post-9/11 era, Superman has represented hope to hold on to amidst all the world's darkness. Superman was to brighten the world, not the world to darken him. The darker the reality is, Superman is to change that reality, not the reality to change him. Of course, there are other flaws in the movie, like Superman being portrayed as a messianic figure like I discussed in my previous video, or Superman having only 8 lines to the main antagonist of the movie.
You're a monster, Zod, and I'm gonna stop you.
However, one of the biggest reasons why I think Man of Steel doesn't work as a Superman movie is that it misunderstood how the character would look if he lived today. The character of Superman struggling in the modern world is nothing new. As old and classic as he is, for all the times he's been called old-fashioned, there are other many contents out there that deal with his struggles with the modern world in a way that doesn't feel out of character like it did in Man of Steel. Actually, it's quite the opposite of that. They strengthen and reassure the classic part of his character. I want to talk about 2 specific examples of it. The movie Superman vs. the Elite, based on the comic What's So Funny About Truth, Justice, and the American Way, and the famous Kingdom Come. When faced with a new group of vigilantes that use violence to stop crime, Superman asks Lois if he's too old-fashioned for the growing world. But by the end of the comic, he proves there's nothing wrong with his way of handling crime, because there's nothing old-fashioned about truth, justice, and a better tomorrow. Even if his values may sound too ideal for a cruel reality, that's precisely the point. To work the best he can to make these idealistic values a reality. Screw it, Superman said it better than I ever could.
You're living in a dream world!
Good. Dreams save us. Dreams lift us up and transform us into something better. And on my soul, I swear that until my dream of a world where dignity, honor, and justice are the reality we all share, I'll never stop fighting. Ever.
Despite providing a darker storyline by questioning Superman's place in a modern world, the comic didn't try to change his Blue Scout character, but rather strengthened it. What about Kingdom Come? When the hero started leaning on violence, Superman came back from retirement to set things right, to bring back the order the proper way. Kingdom Come is also why Injustice and the unreleased Evil Superman storyline of Zack Snyder is the proof of extreme character butchery. When Magog murders Joker in cold blood to make him pay for the deaths of innocent people, which included Lois Lane, Superman condemns Magog because he truly believes nobody has the right to kill another soul, even if it's someone who took away the love of his life. When people chose Magog over Superman, Superman exiles himself. But even then, he spends his time farming for starving countries. Because Superman never gives up on humanity, even when humanity gives up on him. Kingdom Come also has one of the most powerful monologues that characterizes Superman almost better than any other Superman media. And it comes from none other than Magog himself.
You must be proud. 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 God damn you!
Superman, look out!
Proud of being the man of tomorrow. Your fault, you bastard! The world changed, but you wouldn't. So they chose me. They chose the man who would kill over the man who wouldn't. and now they're dead. A million ghosts. Punish me. Lock me away. Kill me. Just make the ghosts go away.
This shows a clear distinction between heroes who care and heroes who don't. In this story, Maggot believes it was okay to kill the Joker, which caused everyone to believe it was okay for heroes to resort to violence as long as it saves the day. But when does it stop? Till when is it okay to kill in cold blood in the name of justice? When you snap someone's neck for endangering innocent people's lives? When you slam a terrorist through words for threatening your girlfriend? Or when you murder Parasite, resulting in the deaths of millions? The truth is, it doesn't stop. Violence never ends, and a true hero must fight this endless battle against such violence. Of course, when Superman tries to overstep his attempt to fix the world, it brings disaster. And that only shows how Superman is also merely a man who can make a terrible mistake when he tries to do more than what he used to do, just being a good man. And that's why Kingdom Come is considered one of the best Superman stories ever written. Superman is a man burdened with his ideas in a cynical age, and the story forces him to confront the dangers of turning ideas to dogma. At the end of the day, Superman is sympathetic, even when he slowly goes down the path of tyranny. And the story ends with him returning as the symbol of hope, because there truly is another path forward. The two stories I've mentioned both briefly feature an evil Superman, to show how Superman would look when he's stripped of his morals, when he loses all the ideas he stands for. A reminder that Superman stops being a hero when you take away any of these values he will always stand for. It's evident that Superman works in a modern setting of violent and cruel reality. However, putting him in a modern setting doesn't mean you modernize his whole character. The more you depict the cruel reality of the modern world, the more you need to focus on the old-fashioned classic character of Superman. Because Superman's character stops being Superman when he starts adapting to such cruel modern society.
I don't think changing him, people are always like, you changed Superman. I'm like, if you're a comic book fan, you know I didn't change Superman. If you know the true canon, you know that I didn't change Superman.
Speaking of Kingdom Come, can we please have a Kingdom Come movie? I mean, it would be so cool to have a Kingdom Come movie with the actors of the old iterations of the characters. Both Michael Keaton and Linda Carter were already willing to come back to DC, so I'm sure it won't be hard to get them. And Brandon Routh already did play a Kingdom Come Superman for CW, so why not a game for a proper movie this time? Considering how he was supposed to be a continuation of Christopher Reeve's Superman, having the retro DC trio together on the big screen will literally make every nerd on the planet happy. Make it happen, man. What really makes me happy is the fact that DC may have finally realized the character of Superman only recently, after years of mischaracterization. From Superman and Lois to My Adventures with Superman, despite being in a modern setting, Superman is finally the ideal superhero, who's also a good father, husband, and friend. I mean, that's what Superman was always about, right? A good friend. But those are TV shows. The generous cinemagoers still remember Henry Cavill's greedy Superman, struggling to stand for what's right due to a constant cruelty from the world. But that's where the new Superman comes in. Just like My Adventures with Superman, James Gunn's new Superman focuses on Clark's human side by making him more friendly, or corny if you will. In other words, Superman became more approachable. Both Supermen are constantly bashed by the public or the government for doing what's right. But the conflict comes from the clash of his righteousness and the world's injustice, not within him or fear of being judged by the world. Superman shouldn't worry about being judged or condemned as long as he knows what he's doing is right, since he doesn't represent anyone but himself and the good he stands for. But more importantly, he shouldn't be on the edge of turning evil or actually turning evil eventually. Considering how Kingdom Come reassured Superman's character in the modernized, cruel society, I believe the choice of using the Kingdom Come symbol for the new Superman was intentional, to remind the audience who the ultimate superhero always has been, and how absurd the modern or evil interpretations of Superman are. The ultimate Superman is not a Superman who kills the Joker and becomes a fascist, nor a Superman who becomes Darkseid's right-hand man after losing Lois Lane. The ultimate Superman is the Superman who saves as many lives as possible, whether it be a cat or a squirrel. Superman is not super because of his powers. Superman remains super when he's stripped of his powers as long as he holds onto his ideas. The belief in a better tomorrow. Superheroes were always meant to be the bright, shining, epic heroes. I don't mean to say that I don't like the darker or more brutal heroes. They work as their own. But they are anti-heroes, not superheroes. And as long as superheroes are concerned, Superman, the face of superheroes, must remain the hero children could look up to forever. Because once Superman loses his ideas, there's nothing better about tomorrow.